Morning, everyone. So today we are here to discuss an important topic on how to do Android app development. That will be AI. Okay. So today's session is about being smart with AI, Android app development. So let me introduce myself. So I'm Yagna. I have done my BE from MITS Pilani. Hello. Let me introduce myself. So I am Yagna. I have done my BE from MITS Pilani and I have done my Masters in Law in NLU Delhi. I'm also MD and CEO for DPDPD Private Limited, as well as I have done some technical reviews on books, as well as I have done authoring of a book called Test-Driven Development. So this year I'm president for Lions Club of Barbadratop, which is a part of International Lions Club. So how many of you have used Android? Mostly. Everyone, right? So when I was in my BTech in 2006, my third year, Nokia 1100 is very famous. Everyone used to have 1100 because it has so many features like flashlight, which you can search, because there used to be power cut during that time. So we can search something at home. When our fathers go to fields and all, they can actually see what is there in the field at night. So it's a very powerful features set 1100. The ringtone also used to be very loud so that they can hear. The keypad is very big so they can see the keys. So that's the power set, feature set at that point of time. And I also bought my 1100 first phone very proudly in 2006 when I was in my BTech third year with my own money, which I earned through TA, teaching assistants. Okay. So in 2014, I remember I saw first smartphone by myself. I'm not saying that smartphone was invented in 2014. Hello. Please let me know if you are not able to hear me. So in 2014, I saw my first Android phone. I didn't buy it. I'm telling. I saw it. Okay. So it was a marvel at that point of time, because if you want to do something at that point of time, we don't have WhatsApp, we don't have Facebook, we only used to have Orkut. There is a page called Orkut by Google. I think none of you might know it. So Orkut is the founding father for Facebook. So it used to have similar kind of features, but very messy. So Orkut is the first social platform which we used. So if you want to see something, mostly on web browser at that point of time, we use smartphones. Okay. Banking was also not possible at that point of time. It was very difficult over the phone. But still, smartphone used to give some features like, you can access your mail importantly at that point of time. So it was purely web browser based access through smartphone. But as things went on, everything used to convert into app. We used to call app. So app is not something new to any of us. App is a shortcut of application. What is meant by application? Which is useful. So today we are using Zoom or we are using Microsoft Teams. These are all apps. Apps is not something special to a smartphone. Okay, but apps which can run on smartphone without browser, those we are calling it as apps. Okay, apps is a very general definition in reality. App means application. But we think like app means which should have an icon on the screen, which if I double click, it will open. It won't ask my username, password every time. So this is what my general knowledge about apps. In reality, app means anything which is useful, application, not just software. Okay. For example, if you have a motor, okay, which gets water, which pumps water from your ground level to third level, that was an application because it is helping you, right? But in software, whatever which runs on a mobile platform or mobile phone, smartphone, without asking you many times the authentication or without trying to remember what website it is, right? When you double click on Facebook app, do you remember that you have to go to https://facebook.com? No, you don't remember. That's why apps became very easy. No need to remember anything. Just double click, it will remember your session. No need to re-log in and all, right? So it's not same for every app because you actually open any of the banking application, right? Banking app, like net banking application, HDFC, Centis, SBI, like it will ask you password, right? SBI cards, because it's a protected and financial related applications. But in general, apps will not ask you for passwords. So that is the ease of using it. So apps became popular not because they will do something else which website cannot do. It's the same thing. What you can do in Facebook app, you can do the same in website of the Facebook also. What you can do in a net banking application, you can do the same thing in your website also. There is no difference. In the SSL encryption, everything, like how it communicates. In reality, apps also talks to web server. So if any of you know what is web server, right? Otherwise, I'll explain you what is web server, right? So web server is a user want to know some information or want to perform some action. For example, I want to know what is my balance in my account. So that is stored on a server which exposes web APIs, means over the internet through HTTP. HTTP is a protocol. Now I am speaking in English, you are able to understand. If I start continuing my workshop in Tamil, you don't understand. So if some of you are from Tamil Nadu or you know Tamil, then you can understand. So for simplicity, even if it is not reality, think that protocol is a language. So HTTP is a language, it's a protocol. So what is language? It might be computer language or it might be human language. For example, Telugu, Hindi, English. What is a language? A set of known words for both the parties. I know what is Kannadam. You also know what is Kannadam. So if I say Tinnava, you know what I'm asking, right? Because we both know the same thing. If I ask Sabian, you don't might be knowing because it's a simple command. Right? So it's a set of known things like Java. What is class? You know what is class? Computer know what is class. Right? So what is object? You know what is object? Computer know what is object. So it's a set of known words and grammar to both the parties. So both the parties come under a mutual agreement. You know, when we are in third class, fourth class, it was a huge, famous for ka language. People used to add ka between in front of every letter in a word and used to speak so that others don't. Right? So it is a kind of language. So those two friends have set a common language so that only those two people know. So similarly, in computer language, computer knows the same set of constructs. We call it as constructs or vocabulary or words. Everything is and the dictionary, and syntax. Okay, syntax or grammar. Right? Grammar means which word should come before what or which word should come after what. Okay, so that a meaningful sentence or a meaningful program will come out. It means actually both the parties will. Right. So similarly, in Android also, so there is an app. Okay, and app talks to a web server. Now, for app or forget about Android, a website, you are accessing a website. You are accessing your own college's website. BEC.com, AC.com, BC.com. So, who is answering your questions? You want to see holidays, because most of us are very happy to see whether tomorrow is holiday. So, we went to holidays list page. So you said like pec.ac.in/public holidays.html. So who is answering your question? And who is understanding your question is web server. There is a server which is residing in a remote place. That remote place can be Singapore, can be Hong Kong, can be US. Based on the data centers. So recently we also have Mumbai, and you might have seen that in Vishakhapatnam also we are getting a very big data set by Google. So there you have different servers on which the actual data is residing. So it is like a receptionist. And if I go to any place, I'll say, may I help you move? And I ask them some question. They have to answer. But for example, if a North person comes here and he's asking in Hindi, most of the South states, they don't speak Hindi. They can speak English, but they don't speak Hindi. So that person is a layman from North. So he can't speak English or Telugu. So now they both can't communicate. So the communication should happen in the common language. And for the web server and the web client, that can be browser, the common language is HTTP. So there is a protocol, HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol. Means actually they both are speaking in the language where somebody is asking a question, somebody is answering. Sometimes server will ask me a question. What is your username? What is your password? Tell me your identity, then only I allow you. So web server sometimes asks web client. Web client sometimes asks web server. It is a two-way communication, not single. So whenever this is happening, the web server will respond with a answer, and that answer will be normally in HTML format. It is not mandatory, but sometimes it will render this. Sometimes it will render JSONs. Depends on the kind of code. So now this HTML will be rendered. Rendered means shown as a good format which you can easily consume. For example, I prepared all these slides. I can just speak without having any slides. I can also write a program and tell that you see this is one. But normally you would understand because you are fresh. So I put it into some kind of color, some kind of pictures, and also that it's easy for you to communicate. Websites also, right? You don't do only black and white. You see terminal, command prompt in your Windows, whatever it comes, it is only black and white. So you don't understand. It's easy. It's not easy to communicate. But for example, if you go to any of the website, your college website or any other website or Facebook, anything, it's very easy to understand. You have a wall, you have friend statuses, you can just click on the line. But if everything becomes a HTTP call and then it goes to server, server will give something back. Now this rendering can be done in two things. One is browser, second thing is app. So app is no different than browser, remember. But the thing is, app, the ease of use is increased. How? Why it is very easy? Because you don't need to remember which website it is. You don't need to type it. You don't need to give your username password. It's easy. Double click, it will come. Right? So that's the difference. Now, coming back to Android. So what is Android? Now we understood what is web server, what is web client. Okay, now we are going to write a different kind of web client. That's it. So we need to understand what is web server. So HTTP protocol. So we understood the use of app. Now let us understand what is OS, operating system. So what is operating system? So operating system is the core element in any of the device. It can be computer. I'm just giving a layman definition, not your computer science definition. It is a core element on any of the device. It can be your computer or your mobile or any embedded device like washing machine, like Microsoft microwave oven. All these are embedded. All these are embedded. Then they are not. All these embedded device, everything will have operating system. So what is operating system means? Actually, it's a core element in all these devices which will connect with the hardware and connect with the software and will do mediation between hardware and software. Sound comes. Nice. So what will happen is this operating system will communicate between hardware and software. Okay. So you know what is hardware, which you can touch and feel. RAM, you open, actually there is a slot for RAM, and also there are cards for RAM. And you have CPU. Okay, CPU is not this box, the actual processor. Okay, and you have chip for internet. There is a connection, normally connection chip for getting internet. So all these devices, the keyboard, mouse, monitor, printer, all these devices, they have to work with the actual applications. For example, if you open Word and you are typing, so whatever you are typing on the keyboard should appear on the Word application. So who is mediating, who is negotiating between these two? So you have actual textbook, you are the students. You can't read it directly, right? So the faculty will come and mediate. They will let you understand what is written in the textbook, so that you can understand more, and then you will write your exams better or perform better in your exams. So this mediation is done through operating system, and you have lot of operating systems. Windows is an operating system you're all using, but Windows has two versions. One is desktop version, one is server version. In desktop version, you have the Windows 8, 9, 10. Previously, we used to have Windows XP. All these are Windows versions. Then you also have Linux. Linux has again different flavors. Okay. You have RHEL, Red Hat Linux. You have Debian versions. You have SUSE versions. So all these are different types of Linux flavors. Then you have Solaris. Solaris also online. Sun related operating systems. You have HP, UX, you have AX. All these are operating systems. So out of all these operating systems, Linux is extended as Android. So Linux is the operating system which is behind Android OS. Okay. Whereas in case of iPhones, it's not Android, it's iOS. It's a different kind of. But that is also actually based on Unix. Unix or Linux, similar. So Android is nothing but an operating system. And on top of operating system, we have applications. For example, on Windows, you have Word, you have PowerPoint, you have Word, WordPad. Okay. So all these are applications. You have Chrome browser itself is an application. So all these applications are running on top of operating system. Normally, writing operating system is very difficult. And because you have to deal with a lot of things, lot of hardware vendors, right? Everything. Whereas writing applications or implementing applications is easier because operating system takes care of a lot of things, and it's very easy to write the applications. So we are not writing the desktop applications today, but we are writing the mobile applications. So mobile applications are standing on top of Android. That's why they are called as Android. If they are standing on top of iOS, then they will be called as applications. Right? So today we will try to understand how to write an application, and at the end of today's session, we are going to write a application which searches for any product when you take photo. It will give the nutritional values of that product. It will also tell in which countries this product is banned. For example, in most of the villages, even today, they use something called poppy seeds as part of chicken curry. Okay, in Telugu, we call it as gasarasa. It's very famous. Without that, most of the villages, even today, will not prepare chicken curry. But if you carry the same thing with you, and unfortunately, they are not detected in Indian customs, they are detected in, once you do entry into US, you will be sent to prison for 14 years. Poppy seeds. Because that's a drug outside our country. So when poppy seeds come, actually on the flower, if you make a small cut, it will give some black gum that is kind of drug. That gum. In Telugu, we call it as Hadam. Okay. So it is not like anybody can go out and raise the crop of poppy seeds. So that kind of poppy seeds, if you take, you will. So if you have our app, you just carry it. It will tell this is poppy seeds. This is what your nutritional value. But at the same time, if you are traveling to these countries like UK, US, don't carry it. It's a useful app. So as we discussed, Android is an open source mobile operating system developed by Google. It is based on Linux kernel. Kernel is nothing but the core operating system. And it is used in smartphones and tablets. So if you use the Samsung kind of dash, it is using Android. Then it supports billions of apps. Actually, more than 65% of the phones are on Android, on the iOS, because most of the people are middle class or below middle class or above middle class. So they don't purchase iPhones. Right. At the same time, in some of the countries, iPhones are available for various reasons. So key features are open source. So here we need to discuss what is open source. So when I write a program for my company, I keep the code secret because that is what I'm selling and then I'm getting to. So I normally don't sell it. Show it to anybody, to the public. Whereas open source is a concept where your code is given out. So anybody can see that code. Not only they can see, but they can modify, they can rebuild, and they can sell it. So that's the open source. That because of which actually all of these mobile companies are creating the open source, and then they're customizing and then using it. And it has rich APIs. So what do you mean by API? API stands for Application Programmable Interface, which means you can use it and create something else. So if you have any friends in electronics and all, you ask them, they have resistors, capacitors. Resistor, we don't know what is there inside. It's a very small kind of thing. But outside you have two legs. Capacitor, two legs. Triode, three legs. And you have some chips, some 6 plus 6 for legs. So you only have those legs. And then you can insert that into breadboard, or you can solder them to something else, some other component, you can create a circuit. So these are kind of APIs essentially for software also. We don't know what it is doing, but it will do. For example, I want to get the conversion rate. What is the conversion rate from dollar to rupee or rupee to dollar? There is an API. I can just go and call it and then it will give me the answer. No need for me to understand what is going behind the scenes. Okay. So those are like building blocks for any of my product. So that the product development will be easy and faster. So we have these are used in smartwatches, smart TVs, mobile phones, and also cars. So let us also see what is Android application. As I told, any application which is built on top of Android OS is called as Android application. And for any application, normally you have three layers. One is front end, one is back end, one is data server or database. So here also you have three layers. So one is Java classes, okay, which is kind of backend. XML, which is your front end, and you can also interact with databases. So in this session or in this workshop, we will be using Java. So if you are not familiar with Java, let me know. I'll just feed wherever I do. And we have XML. So if you know what is the meaning of XML, so XML is a structured data which we can represent on a paper. So I don't know whether how data structures are completed, the course is completed. So if you see any data structure, the data structure is in memory. You can't write on paper. Tree, node of a tree. Okay, you can't liquid list. All of those are in your memory. But if I want to represent an object, for example, I want to represent a student object. Student, his name, his father's name, his date of birth, his year of joining, his current year, okay, his section, his department, address. Again, address as city, district, all those things. Then that cannot be represented directly on paper. Whereas in case of XML, you have something called tags. Okay, so you have the outer tag. Tag is something which is in between less than and greater than. So you have student tag, which is starting, and it will also end with less than backslash student and then greater than. So if the start end, in between I can write a loop. So that becomes the entire block. And inside that I have again name and then his name actually and backslash name. Similarly, I have address. Inside the address, again I have another class. So it's a nested data which I can represent on paper. So that's an XML. So we use XML in this workshop. And finally, we create an APK out of this entire workshop, and we can install that onto our mobile app, mobile phone, and then we can use it. That also is. Also, in these applications, we can use camera, GPS, sensors, everything, whatever you have on the mobile. So we will see how or what components do we have. So first one is activities. Activities are nothing but number of screens. Every screen is like an activity. Like every slide is like an activity, right? Screen is an activity. You have different UI components inside the activity, right? Those are like web elements in case of website. Then you have services which run in the background, and you have some event handlers. So event handler is like broadcasting system. So if somebody clicks, then it will tell to all the event handlers so that whatever events has to happen or whatever the code has to run, it will do. For example, if I click on camera symbol, it has to open the camera. It's an event. Then content provider, which actually gives the data outside. So I need to